Hello, denizens. Welcome to my former network executive reaction to Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Episode 10, the final show of the season. The final frontier, you could call it. What a journey. I'm not entirely sure I would have accepted this assignment unless you, my denizens, had requested. There will be spoilers. As I've said in a previous review, I have learned the only way to embrace SNW is to accept that TOS never existed. Otherwise, I'd be spending all my time picking apart Starship model inconsistencies. Besides, you all know that's not what I do. With that in mind, and with my executive in charge of production hat on, this episode finally fulfilled the ripping yarn checkboxes I've been waiting for from the beginning. For all you Yanks, a ripping yarn is a British term for a classic adventure book, a page-turner. Once again, the show opened with Pike cooking. I smell an Emerald Lagasse spin-off chef series. Just watch for it. Sure, he had an apron on over his uniform, but how about a comfy t-shirt while he's relaxing in his spacious cabin? Or are grease stains no longer a problem in the future? I never thought of that. It was nice to see his partner, spouse, wife, I can't say wife, living person from episode 1, because she will nicely work her way into the ending of this episode. Just wait. Now we come to the worst part of the show. You have to get past this episode's giant suppository of a time travel MacGuffin. When future Pike shows up out of the blue, I initially thought that this is that classic insurance ad. Hey, who are you? I'm you in the future. You look great. Thanks. That's because I took out universal life insurance and I retired early. But seriously, to get past that Klingon time crystal thingy, they really had to shove that suppository way up with a broom handle. After Pike touched the crystal, was it all in his head? But how did Pike show up and why now? Was it to stop Pike from writing the note that saves the kid, stops Pike from getting burned to a crisp, but kills Spock and causes a giant war with the Romulans? It was obviously not a hallucination starting a hallucination. This was clearly the ghost of Christmas future Time Trek. Time Trek? Star Trek episode. It would have been vastly more plausible if it was Mbenga's daughter popping in. Now that she's a sentient cloud of super being gas with all sorts of powers, to tell Pike that trying to change the future would be a greater danger. The writers of New Trek just don't have much in the way of old-fashioned sci-fi sensibilities. Anyway, one has to suspend great wads of disbelief at the best of times with these kinds of shows. I know 12-year-old Paul would probably not have had any issue with any of it. After that, it was ripping yarn time with the Romulans. Yes, we've seen this story before, but remember, I am the executive in charge of production. I don't care. Overall, both the acting and direction were excellent. Anson Mount's hair did great work. The Romulan commander was a joy. His performance ripped straight out of TOS. A bit of cat and mouse, some old-style Trek as two battle-worn soldiers consider a different future. In fact, James D. Kirk was in it. Uhura was finally on comms. And we heard the voice of Scotty.
Try it now.
Aye, that's the one. This is where the auto repair was getting hung up.
That gave me the same goosebumps as when Luke Skywalker showed up on The Mandalorian. Pure fan service, but I loved it. Pike and Kirk facing off with each other, they were marvelous together. The Romulans offing one of their own was appropriate and sad. The only thing I would have changed was the way they handled Ortegas's character in this episode. Now, this is not a comment on the actor or her work, but the writers went maximum overdrive on the obnoxious, insubordinate shit. And I'd grown to like her too. They even had Pike yelling at Ortegas on the bridge. Dear God, does the Enterprise have an HR department? The scene between Pike and Spock, I was certain Pike was going to tell Spock that he loved him. It was close. The ending was a very good setup for next season. Maybe this time Una will actually have something to do, though she will be locked away in prison and not on the Enterprise. So maybe not. We know Pike does the right thing in his present timeline because Spock survives. And we know Una gets out of prison because she has to be available for the menagerie or the cage, depending on what level of Trekkie you are. I did like the tension between Pike and his partner, like the live-in spouse, whatever, as she carted Una away. Not much meat on her. I would prefer seeing Pike and Una together. And did you see Pike turn and look straight into the camera at the very end? Ooh, shivers. I tell you, it gave me shivers. The last thing I want to talk about, which has been of great concern to me throughout the entire series, is what's with the shoulder pads. They are like 1980s obnoxious. The uniforms are always puckering in under them. I had a jacket like that. It was ridiculous. I got married in one. You'd think in the future they would have solved the shoulder padding puckering problem with the quantum foam or something. Anyway, that's it for me. You asked me to review Strange New Worlds. I have fulfilled my duties. I request you to release me from my bonds. My work is done. Till next time, be seeing you.